Hey everyone, today I want to talk about, unfortunately, a topic that is really problematic. And because there's so much social media content out there, it's about relationship advice. Now, before I go any further, the things I'm going to talk about in this video are coming from angles that are used for very severe ROCD, which is relationship OCD, where you have a mental health disorder that operates off the things you value the most. It gets in there and twists those around. We're not going to go into the depths of what that is. You can go to our playlist and search that. This also goes for relationship anxiety, but that's only the top end. These principles work for everything. These principles were not made for OCD sufferers. We're going to talk about, more than likely, the best way to look at any type of relationship. And if the person that you're working with is not talking about your beliefs about the situation, they're not actually giving you relationship advice. They're giving you a biased recommendation on what they believe should be the answer. And when it comes to unconditional acceptance, it's just looking at the reality, the common sense, and just how to break down your particular fear patterns that you can make your decisions about that. So before I go any further, please subscribe, hit that like button down below. Let me know what you think about this video. This is going to be something that is going to unfortunately perpetuate for years to come, more than likely get worse, create more social anxiety because people do not understand about their belief systems, more divorce rates, more frustration tolerance, very low frustration tolerance, and every other instant gratification problems. We're not going to go into all sorts of different angles that can affect it. You know, all the different types of people that give bad advice. There is a lot. Unfortunately, in my opinion, if I'm sent 1,000 relationship videos, I would probably say less than one, maybe zero, have good, substantial advice when it comes to breaking down the person's fear pattern and their behaviors, and then going forward and letting the person make their decision whilst realizing there actually is no right or wrong decision. That is a myth. It's not whether staying or leaving is the problem. It's your belief system about that particular scenario. And again, Phil at OCDrecovery.com. Now, what are the first things to realize when it comes to the standard relationship advice? There are a lot of people giving advice on relationships who have never held a substantial, healthy relationships and or married over a long period of time. Now, do you need to have one of those in order to give the best recommendations? Not always, but it helps a lot. So you have a lot of people giving marriage advice who have never been married. Weird. It's like people giving advice about how to tour a particular city in Ethiopia where they've never even been to Africa. It's just a weird thing. The same thing with OCD and anxiety recovery. The people that say they're experts have never had OCD. You cannot be an expert on OCD without having it. That academic side alone only skims the surface of what the experience lived life is like. It's like you're not going to pick up a book and read a book on a hard drug addiction and say, I'm an expert in this hard drug, I can relate to the person. You know they can't. You can't bullshit them. That's the reality of it. And these are some tough individuals, men and women, and they don't want to be bullshitted. They want to work with people who have lived their journey, come out the other side, and the same thing with OCD and anxiety. And dating advice is really no different. So you get these people, these big figures who, again, there's nothing inherently wrong with this, but let's say you have a guy, he has millions of followers, he's never held a substantial relationship, he struggles with adult websites or sex workers behind the scene that he doesn't always talk about. He's constantly going from woman to woman, or if he's homosexual, from man to man, or polyamorous, man, woman, and they're telling you how to operate in a relationship. By far, the worst fucking person ever to get advice from. Turn the camera off, never watch them ever again. I know that sounds rigid, but it's accurate. There are some things that are just common fucking sense that have just disappeared, and that is one of those things. Okay? Now, you could have really bad ROCD and never have been in a long-term relationship, recovered from ROCD. That suffering experience will more than likely give you better recommendations for other people than someone who's married for 30 years with a shit marriage. So the marriage in of itself is not the best indicator of relationship advice, because many people who are married that I'm friends with and people that I see, I would not want anything to do with their marriage or their relationship or their communication or their pettiness all those factors which I held. My wife, she didn't hold any of that. She's matured throughout age. I've known her for almost a decade, but she didn't have to be like, I need to change this. I wanted to change myself about my behaviors. I wanted to change my cheating. I wanted to change my adult website usage. I wanted to change how I communicated when I didn't get my way. I need to, in my opinion, become a mature, respectable adult with those characteristic traits and not someone who's living like a single cell fucking amoeba, as I call it, just very myopic and very focused on what I wanted. You can live your life like that. You can accept that. It's just going to have a lot of cons. There's pros. Don't get me wrong. Do whatever you want to do when you want to do it. There's no cons in that. You know, if you're someone like, these are really good points. Hey, maybe someone's like, yo, I make a lot of money. I'm a doctor, make a couple $100,000 a year, have my own place. I'm good looking. I've never struggled with getting members of the opposite sex. I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. There's a lot of pros in that, like a lot of freedom. But there's also a lot of cons. You got to be careful because certain people with certain value systems, like just use it for an example. Nothing wrong with this, but let's say you're a Christian, a Catholic, a Muslim. You'll use your religious belief systems to say why there are no pros in that example. That's not true. There are tons of pros. That is just common sense reality. It's not called common sense anymore. It's called uncommon sense because our IQs as a society are, they're just going off a cliff. And people, when they hear the hard truth, they say, that's just mean. No, that's just reality, and you have to wake up. So it's just the way it goes. Now, when it comes to dating or relationships or marriage, I wanted to work on the things that I thought were good for me, whether my wife died in a car accident, whether she wanted to leave me. Because after I got better from all my addictive stuff, like the adult websites, the messaging other women, all the other stuff, Rob would say to me, you're working on this for you because Erica may never trust you again. You can't change that. All you can do is work on yourself. And then she leaves you, bring a new product to a relationship whilst accepting that you could go backwards because it is a habit you had for 20 years. I modeled around that with my father and stuff like that. My friends, usually a lot of people that cheat, hang out with a lot of people that cheat. Just the way it goes. And they talk about it and they brag about it just the way it goes. This is not a video on cheating, but there's a lot of that going on. How do I know that? Because I work with human psychology and mindsets all day, every day, and I hear lots of stories from all over the world. Human behavior typically doesn't change. Belief systems are typically the same. I must do well. I must be respected. Transitions through all shades of color, shapes of your body, language barriers. They're just things that humans hold in general. So I wanted to change for me. Now, luckily, very fortunate, Erica decided to stay with me, and we have a very good, healthy marriage. Of course, we disagree, but we see things eye to eye. We don't yell at each other anymore because I changed. Because I changed, I do think that had a secondary effect on her changing, but that wasn't my intention. Her changing absolutely had a secondary and tertiary effects on me changing, and we bounced back and forth off that. Now, are relationships and marriage the most important things in life? No. Erica is a great piece of my life, but I did not know Erica for 26 years. My life was just fine in many ways. So, more than likely, can't say for sure, I would probably be okay without Erica in my life. Now, if you haven't noticed, 8 minutes and 40 seconds into this video, I have not said anything that you would hear in typical dating advice. So last week, I just was going on TikTok or going on Shorts and looking at a relationship advice, which is not advice because it's not coming from belief systems and behavioral change. It's the things I saw. It's usually like someone that's very good looking, someone that seems like they have it all. And they say, these 6 ways to know whether your partner should be with you or not. Or it's a guy being like, and I'm not saying that as a disrespect towards women. It's just a lot of the women are acting like that on social media. Also, the hard truth. Okay, a lot of the men are cigar. Yeah, this is 6 ways to know your girl's a fucking idiot or like something. And these are the worst types of people to get. What you doing? You know, it's so funny because when you act like that, some of the lowest skills in least intelligent humans on earth have the most enthusiasm with the least insights into life. It's very easy to come on the stage and talk about something and like take your shirt off, and if you don't have a 6-pack, you're not going to be an optimal man. Ah! It's like those people are the worst. And I was that person in many ways. Now, I can accept all that. I have to state the facts of what we see, and from a long-term mindset perspective and belief systems and behaviors, I was that person. I took anabolic steroids for years. All I cared about was getting my needs met. I didn't care about anyone else but myself. There was a shitload of pros with that, but there were 10 times more as many cons. I just didn't want to realize it. So you got to be very aware of this. That is what the majority of relationship advice is too. It's ways to know the person's not for you, ways to know if they are for you, ways to know whether you're with the right person, ways to know whether you're in love, ways to know if the sex is good. This is all nonsense. Absolutely nonsense. One of the best relationship books ever written, in my opinion, is How to Stop Destroying Your Relationships, A Better Guide to Dating, Mating, and Relating by Dr. Albert Ellis, which is in the Stubbornly Refused series, which the book is right there. That book is incredible, and it has nothing to do with anything I hear on social media. Now, I have to put myself, if I was 20 years old today, and I had a phone in my hand since I was 3, which was really problematic, and I would be listening to all the same people. So it's understandable. It's easier for me to not make this content, okay? Because I put myself out there. I put myself up the hill, the grain of society beliefs. I put myself out there to have a lot of criticism, no matter how calm I am about it, no matter how open-minded I am about it, no matter how much I like to joke around about it, and like sarcasm and pull back in with unconditional acceptance and go from there. These type of topics, almost no one responds well to, because they want the false empowerment of, I'm in charge, I'm a boss man or a boss woman, and this is what I want to do. And again, not all cons, but to say that there's not all cons, because there's pros, but to say that the cons aren't usually a lot more than the pros is just not true. And you got to look at stuff, like you hear this stuff like people fall out of love. That's like thinking there's a box with love in it and you fell out of it. Like, I know we use this as a phrase to quantify and simplify this stuff. No one falls in love. No one falls out of love. It's small shifts in behaviors and experiences. And over time, typically both. But usually both of people stop trying. So their behaviors are changing, which means it's affecting your belief systems. And their belief systems are changing, which means it's affecting their behaviors. And they go back and forth and back and forth. And eventually, they just say, I fell out of love. That's not what happened. If I had a screenplay of everything for the last 30 years of our marriage, I would find tens of thousands of little things. Yep, I walked in the door, you could have said right there, could have, should have, would have. Hey, babe, you look great today. I love you. Even if you weren't feeling like saying it. To your husband, like, hey, babe, I know this is a tough one for a lot of people. Okay? Let's just be fucking adults. Men typically can be a little bit hornier than women at times. So, hey, babe, I see you've been working a lot. Thank you so much for taking care of the kids. You want to go upstairs and fool around? No, but I'm not in the mood to do that. And it's not for me now. You're using my body. It's like, this is the reality of life. My mom put it the best. My mom is almost 70, raised in the 50s and 60s from Brooklyn. She is a character. I love her to death. She's just old school. But she'd be like, Nicholas, do you think all the times when your father came home, I wanted to have sex? No, but I did it because it's part of what I wanted to do being a wife. And like, these things you can't say anymore because everyone has the frustration tolerance of my coffee cup over there, which is, my coffee cup has no frustration tolerance because it's an inanimate object. Zero. Of course, that's a joke. People have some frustration tolerance, but again, everyone takes everything so literal today, which is hilarious. But we have really low frustration tolerance, and it's to be blamed by all the macho men that are like, go disappear for 2 weeks, build your strength up, come back, then get the ultimate prize. And girls being like, tag him along, if he chases you, then you'll know, and this and that. It's like, this is terrible advice by people that don't understand belief systems, that have very low insight into life. And I was that person. I am the person. I'm talking about myself for my whole life until only a few years ago, with multiple years of practice. I'm working on this since 2019, every day in some ways. I do a lot of things for my wife that I don't feel like doing at times. I don't give a shit if I stack the trash down all the way until I rip my tricep. So, but I know she doesn't like this, so I take it out. I would leave the lint in the dryer until the dryer blows up and burns the whole house down. But she likes when I take that out. You know, she doesn't like it. My socks actually have no holes in them today, but she doesn't like it when there's holes in my socks, which is hilarious because they're my socks on my body and not hers. But anyway, I love my wife, and I like to do things that make her happy. So sometimes I get rid of my socks, stuff like that. You know, I know it's a joke, but Dave Chappelle did say something really funny, you know, a couple decades ago, where he was like, if a guy could live in a cardboard box and still get a woman, he would do it. He gets nice homes because women like nice homes. It's just a funny example, and that goes for everything, right? It's not like a heterosexual thing. It goes for, you know, whether you're homosexual or, you know, all that stuff, or, you know, trans or polyamorous or straight. There's no right or wrong here. Everything has pros and cons to every life that you live, right? There are cons to being a heterosexual married couple. There are cons to being a homosexual couple. There are pros to being a homosexual couple. There are pros to being polyamorous. I mean, these are just this idea that, no, there's none of that. That's not true. Is simply a denial of the way the world actually operates. If there was hard, fast rules, then the second you came out and said, I'm gay or I'm polyamorous, you would just explode into a ball of flames. You'd be like Voldemort at the end of the movie, right? Ah, like turns to dust. So, and you know, and this is coming from a heterosexual man who's married, who loves being married and being monogamous and living with these particular values that I have now, but I didn't have for the majority of my life. But that doesn't mean that I'm better than you. It just means that I see them in that way. You will live your life however you want to live your life. But, you know, if you're struggling with something, your belief systems will more than likely want to change. So I know we covered a bunch of different topics in here, but you just got to be aware of how shit relationship advice is. And I know, because when I say this, I don't like saying it because it does come across as like line in the sand, but almost never do I see anything I would be like, that's an insightful, well thought out, philosophical perspective on dating that leaves room for open-endedness, open-mindedness, with behavioral recommendations and decreasing procrastination and doing things when you don't want to do them. Okay? If you only want to get into a relationship and do things that you want to do, good luck. Send me a letter. Let me know how it goes. Doesn't work out that well. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Phil at OCDrecovery.com. Let me know what you think. As always, enjoy the rest of your day.